Coronation Street's Maria Connor shares her biggest fears next week as she realizes that her marriage could be at crisis point. When Izzy Armstrong pops into the salon for a trim, she gets more than she bargained for as Maria treats her as a counselor rather than a customer. In upcoming scenes on the ITV soap, Maria pushes her husband Gary Windass for information about what he's hiding from her. She can tell that it involves Sarah Platt, as they've been sneaking around together for weeks. Gary dismisses Maria's theories and soon creates a distraction by booking a holiday for the entire family. Izzy, Liam, and Jake are all thrilled, but it only reaffirms Maria's suspicions that something is afoot. Chatting to Izzy, Maria explains her doubts. "I think he's booked it, but that doesn't explain his behavior. In fact, it makes it worse." "Well, think about it. What's the first thing someone does when they've cheated?" As Izzy mentions the classic guilt present, Maria replies, "Exactly. Get a first look at the scene below." The conversation continues, with Maria mentioning how Sarah has also been acting strangely around her. Izzy isn't entirely convinced that Gary would be unfaithful, at least not this time, but Maria is determined to prove her suspicions. Gary and Sarah have been drawn back together since Theo Silverton's death, although the reasons are currently unclear. Gary is one of the main suspects in the mystery, and a flashback scene recently showed him staring down at the villain's body on the night of his demise. Could Sarah be covering for him, and will this cause problems for her relationship with DC Kit Green in the long run? They could certainly be on a collision course, as Kit has vowed to make Gary the focus of his investigation now that Summer Spellman is in the clear. The cobbles of Coronation Street are no strangers to heartbreak, betrayal, and life-changing revelations, but nothing could prepare Maria Connor for the emotional storm she is about to face. In a storyline that promises to shake Weatherfield to its core, Maria finds herself forced to confront a devastating conclusion about Gary Windass, a man she once trusted, loved, and believed she could build a future with. What begins as a lingering sense of unease slowly transforms into a full-blown emotional reckoning as Maria pieces together unsettling truths that she can no longer ignore. And when the final truth comes into focus, it leaves her questioning not only Gary's actions, but everything she thought she knew about their relationship. A love built on fragile ground. Maria and Gary's relationship has always been layered with complexity. From the beginning, there was passion, but also shadows, secrets Gary carried, choices he made in the past, and the emotional scars that never fully healed. Maria, ever hopeful and fiercely loyal, often chose to believe in redemption rather than suspicion. For a while, it seemed to work. Gary appeared to be settling into a more stable life, trying to prove he was worthy of Maria's trust and their blended family dynamic. But in Weatherfield, peace rarely lasts long. Subtle cracks began to form. Late-night phone calls Gary wouldn't explain, sudden changes in his behavior, and unexplained absences that he brushed off too easily. Maria, initially reluctant to assume the worst, begins to feel the weight of doubt pressing down on her. It's not one single moment that breaks her confidence, but a series of small inconsistencies that refuse to add up. The first signs of trouble, the turning point, comes when Maria overhears a conversation that was never meant for her ears. It is brief, fragmented, and ambiguous, but enough to ignite suspicion. Gary's name is mentioned alongside something financial, something hidden, something that doesn't sit right. At first, she tries to dismiss it. After all, Gary has been trying to move on from his darker past. But Maria is not naive. She has lived long enough in Weatherfield to know that when secrets start whispering, they rarely stay quiet for long. Her instincts sharpen. She begins observing Gary more closely, the way he guards his phone, the way he reacts when questioned, the sudden defensiveness when his whereabouts are mentioned. Each behavior adds another layer to the growing unease inside her. Still, part of Maria doesn't want to believe it. Admitting the truth would mean confronting the possibility that the man she has stood beside might not be who she thought he was. A web of suspicion tightens. As the days go on, Maria's investigation becomes more personal and more painful. She confides in no one, fearing she might be overreacting, but unable to shake the feeling that something is fundamentally wrong. Her suspicions lead her down a path of discovery that uncovers financial irregularities, hidden meetings, and a chain of events that point toward Gary being involved in something far more serious than she ever imagined. Whether it is deliberate deception or dangerous entanglement, Maria cannot yet tell, but the outcome feels equally devastating either way. What hurts most is not just the possibility of wrongdoing, but the emotional distance growing between them. Gary becomes increasingly closed off, while Maria becomes more emotionally isolated, trapped in a relationship that no longer feels safe or honest. The moment of truth. The confrontation, when it finally comes, is not explosive at first. It begins with hesitation, carefully chosen words, and a fragile attempt by Maria to give Gary a chance to explain. But explanations fall short. Gary's responses are inconsistent, his deflections too quick, his denial lacking conviction. And in that moment, Maria sees something she cannot unsee. The truth reflected not in what he says, but in what he refuses to say. It is here that Maria reaches her devastating conclusion. Not necessarily that Gary is entirely the man she fears him to be, but that she can no longer trust him. Trust, once broken or blurred beyond recognition, cannot be rebuilt by half-truths and evasions. For Maria, this is the real heartbreak. Not just the potential betrayal, but the loss of certainty in the person she built her emotional world around. Emotional fallout on the cobbles. The aftermath ripples through Weatherfield in classic Coronation Street fashion. Maria is left emotionally shattered, torn between anger, grief, and disbelief. Friends try to support her, but the depth of her pain is something she must process alone. Gary, meanwhile, is left grappling with the consequences of whatever truths he has withheld. Whether he intended harm or simply misjudged the situation, the damage to his relationship with Maria is profound. The tension between them becomes impossible to ignore. Every interaction is charged with unresolved emotion, love tangled with mistrust, history clashing with present reality. Maria begins to question not just Gary, but her own judgment. How did she miss the signs? Was she too forgiving? Too hopeful? Or simply unwilling to see what was right in front of her? A turning point for Maria. This storyline marks a significant emotional turning point for Maria Connor. Known for her resilience and strength, she now faces one of her most vulnerable chapters yet. But beneath the heartbreak lies a deeper transformation. Maria is forced to redefine what she wants from love, trust, and stability. The experience strips away illusions and leaves her confronting a difficult truth. Sometimes love is not enough to overcome dishonesty. Yet, as with all Coronation Street characters, Maria's strength begins to re-emerge from the wreckage. In her quiet moments, she starts rebuilding herself, not as someone defined by Gary's actions, but as someone who refuses to remain in emotional uncertainty. What comes next? As Weatherfield watches the fallout unfold, one question remains unanswered. Is this truly the end for Maria and Gary, or merely the beginning of a deeper unraveling of secrets yet to be revealed? In true soap fashion, nothing is ever fully resolved. But one thing is certain, Maria Connor's devastating conclusion over Gary Windass will leave lasting scars on both their lives, and the cobbles will never quite be the same again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation Street Scoop News Update.